Hey everyone, a very hairy Joel Hansen here today, and today we're going to do a slightly different video. Inspired by Randy Santel's recent video in which he covered 4 times that he'd been cheated by food challenge restaurants, today we're going to cover my hardest food challenges and times that some people have said I've gotten cheated by restaurants. Although I'm going to leave that up to you, I'm going to remain objective throughout this experience. I'm also going to exclude times I've done 2 challenges in one day and I've barely finished the latter because that's kind of my own doing, that's kind of my own fault. So with that, let's get into it. So first one we have today is my very first challenge ever. This was a burger challenge at a place called Old Dublin in Prince Edward Island in Charlottetown to be specific, and the challenge was called the Mount Dublin. So what made this challenge so hard? Well, this is actually my first food challenge ever. The challenge itself weighed about 5 pounds, consisting of 12 patties, bacon, cheese, and about a pound of fries. As I mentioned, this was my first food challenge, and prior to this, I had no experience. Only thing I really did is I went on Randy Santel's website and looked up like how to prepare for a food challenge. Even with that small amount of preparation, let's just say things didn't go as planned. The 45-minute time limit on the challenge, which I mean to now I think was pretty reasonable, well, let's just say it took me 43 minutes to actually complete this challenge. That's right, I barely had any time to spare. I was able to get the burger down in about 20 minutes, and then I spent that other 20 minutes just trying to get that pound of fries. The whole time with those fries, I was gagging, the fries were cold, the burger went down okay, but if you're not used to eating large quantities of food, you're just not generally able or capable to do it. And even though I was a big eater and able to eat large quantities of food, or so I thought, eating it in such a short period of time just didn't really work out that well. So that would be the first hardest challenge we faced. Oh, and I will say, by no means did I get cheated at Mount Dublin. Everything was very fair. It was just my inexperience that made that challenge difficult. Next, we're going to my 4th food challenge ever, which would be Moe's Ultimate Breakfast Challenge at Moe's Family Diner in Oakville, Ontario. So what made this challenge so difficult? Well, this would have been the biggest challenge I had done to date at the time. As I mentioned, this was only my 4th food challenge, and this challenge is about 7 pounds. They say it's about 7 pounds. Nobody weighs it, and I've seen versions which are bigger, some that are smaller. So I would say it probably varies between 7 and 9 pounds. So what made this challenge so difficult? Well, it was just a lot of food. There's a 90-minute time limit. It took me, I believe, 62 or 63 minutes. I barely got through it. Again, similar thing. I was gagging near the end of it, really trying not to throw up. It's very, very hot when you're eating so many carbohydrates, such as hash browns, pancakes, all those items. So that was what really made it hard. There's about 3 or 4 pounds of hash browns on that challenge, and that was, it was hard to get through. But I did get through it. Very thankful about that. So again, I don't think I was cheated at all in this circumstance. It was just a very big challenge, and I was very new to the game. Next challenge, which is undoubtedly one of the hardest challenges I've ever done, and I did it recently, was the impossible 20-pound ice cream challenge I did at a place called Hollywood Cone in Whitby, Ontario. So 100% these people did not cheat me. I knew like this was something we kind of planned, where they originally had like this ultimate banana split, to which I went and did previously, and I was like, hey, I'm going to come in and do a couple of them. So it was exactly what it is. Again, no way was I cheated. I knew this was going to be very hard going into it, but I'll just tell you about it nonetheless. So 20 pounds of ice cream and other toppings, and it was like legit, it was crazy. So what was awesome about these Titanic banana splits, ultimate banana splits, whatever you want to call them, they each weighed 5 pounds each. So there's 3 of those, and instead of doing a 4th one, we opted for this icon shake, they call it. And it was massive, again, like bigger than the ice cream sundaes. So there was minimum 20 pounds ice cream, different ingredients. It was all very good tasting. Like I actually enjoyed like the taste of it throughout. There were so many like different donuts, and there was bananas, chocolate bars, ice cream. What made it more difficult is in one of the variants, we had chocolate bars, and the chocolate bars all basically froze. It took quite a bit of time to actually kind of make each of the challenges, so we had them sitting in the freezer in the meantime. So it was like everything was very cold, very frozen. Again, just overall very difficult challenge. Near the end of it, my head hurt. I've never been in a challenge where my head hurt. My head hurt, and it wasn't brain freeze. I hurt my head. My mouth felt weird. My stomach felt not great. Man, it was a lot to say the least. And that is by far the biggest food challenge I've done by weight. Yes, it's ice cream. All foods sit differently, but that was just a very difficult challenge, which is essentially 4 different challenges all combined in ones. But again, no way was I cheated here. The people at Hollywood Cone are absolutely excellent. It's probably my favorite. It definitely is my favorite ice cream place in and around the Toronto area or in Ontario that I've ever experienced. So I love that place. Definitely recommend checking it out. It is a good beginner food challenge, their Titanic ice cream split, but don't do 3 or 4 of them. Just don't do it. It's very difficult. Next is a food challenge which was very difficult as well. So this is the 10-pound donair challenge I did at King of Donair in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So for this challenge, again, this was something that we kind of prepared. We were doing a charity event that day, kind of to celebrate National Donair Day. And part of that, me taking place, was I was going to eat a 10-pound donair, which was the biggest donair in the world. Let's just say it was big. It was a hard one. So the 10 pounds, although that is a lot of food, it wasn't that was necessarily difficult. Like it was, don't get me wrong, it was difficult, it was hard. But what really made this challenge last a lot longer than I would have, than if it was some other food, like some kind of soft food, like let's say ice cream, for example, was the donair meat. So donair meat, which is like, it's not donair, whatever you guys say. It's very different. It's not a European whatever thing. It is on a spit, but it is donair. It is a Halifax, Nova Scotia specialty exclusive. Yes, it looks like a shawarma, gyro, doner, whatever you guys say, but it's not. It's a donair. Now that that's out of the way. So what was so difficult about it is it's just like the meat is, it doesn't have a lot of moisture to it. It tastes great, but it requires so much chewing. And then on that massive kind of pita, so between the meat and the pita, just copious amounts of chewing. So that was very difficult. And ultimately, I think I had 60 minutes. It took me, let's say, upwards of 45, which it's pretty difficult. Like in that circumstance, I can tell that's pretty difficult. Thankfully, I was able to do it. And again, by no means did these guys rip me off, cheat me, or anything. No, love the guys at King of Donair. They're all great at that restaurant. Seriously, my favorite place in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Now let's get into the places where, I'm just going to say I'm going to remain very objective. So this is the one exception to the challenge, to the 2 challenges in one day, I should say, that I'm going to include. So this is when I did a challenge at a place called Blue Wolf Bistro in Rochester, New York. So this challenge, it's about 5 pounds, 5-6, which isn't that much. Yes, I did have a challenge earlier in the day, but what made this so difficult was I was served raw beef. Yes, raw beef, raw ground beef. This wasn't like a rare steak. No, and this wasn't a rare burger. I've had rare burgers before. No, this was raw.
Jesus Christ.
It's still more.
Yeah.
When you, like, the insides of the burgers were totally not hot, like they were totally cold or room temperature. When you pulled it apart, it was stringy still. Like if you have even a rare burger, when the heat touches it, it's not stringy, it kind of breaks apart a little bit. So I was served raw beef. I don't think it was intentional myself. I'll leave that up to you ultimately to decide. But what made this so difficult is then again, I was kind of already full. I had this, like, it was raw beef. It was absolutely not great tasting. It was actually disgusting, to be honest. And again, I'm not saying the challenge was a bad challenge, but whoever was in that kitchen that night just didn't know how to cook a burger, let's just say that. And there was a point where I said, like, I called the server over again. It was very busy. And I said, like, listen, can you, like, just heat this up or cook this or something more? Because this is raw. And the lady, again, I understand this is probably the first time she's ever in that situation. She was like, well, I'll have to call, like, a manager. So I'm like, like because there wasn't one there. So I'm like, well, how long is that gonna take? I'm literally just asking you to cook this burger a little longer. Anyway, to make a long story short, at that time I had like a patty or two left. I said, I'm just gonna eat this, and yeah, that was horribly difficult because of the raw beef. Next, we're getting into definitely, again, it's up there for probably the hardest food challenge, maybe the hardest food challenge I've ever done. This was the world's biggest shawarma fry in a place called London, Ontario. So that was the city. And let's just say this dish, which was supposed to be 10 pounds and looked like on the picture, and I actually even sent the guy a message and said, hey, this is the challenge, right? Sent him that exact picture. I said, and it's 10 pounds, right? And he said, yes, yes. So I literally had that in a like Facebook conversation. And anyway, I showed up to the dish looking very, very different. It had never been completed before, and I can see why. So this 10-pound fry dish, I guarantee, I think I listed it as like 12 plus pounds on the video. It was more. It was insane. It was probably 13, 14, whatever pounds. It was just maybe 15. It was just everything. If you have to understand, it was the big kind of, I don't know, like multi-gallon roasting pan, absolutely filled with French fries, and then just doused in literally pounds of sauces. I mean, the first bites tasted okay, but it was just, it was so difficult. Near the end of it as well, the employees were kind of telling me different things. The one guy was like, as soon as I asked him, I was like, as soon as I'm done this handful of fries, I'm done, right? And the one guy said, yes. And I ate those, and I looked at that guy went away. There's a new employee. I said, I'm done, right? He said, you have to eat that literal glob of garlic mayonnaise, which was this big, like bigger than my fist. It's like at least a full cup. And I was like, what? The guy just told me I was done. He's like, no, you have to finish that. So then I had to eat literally a glob of mayonnaise, and that was very difficult. The whole time, again, I'm gagging through this, especially the mayonnaise. I'm very much gagging. It was very difficult. Yeah, that was a hard challenge. Next would be another challenge with raw food. Ugh, why? So this is a place I did in Maine. It was the challenge I did in Maine a little while ago. So essentially the challenge was to beat the wing record. So I called the place like literally, like I'm talking like I'm on the way, like 10 minutes away. Like, hey, so your wing record, it's like, I forget what it was. Let's say it was 60 wings. They're like, yeah, it's 60 wings. So, okay. So I show up there, I go on in, I order the wing challenge, blah, 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 60 wings. They kind of start you off with, I don't know, let's say it was 10 or 20, and then they bring them out, 5 or 10 at a time. And so anyway, I went in there and I ordered it, and then the guy comes out and says, oh yeah, by the way, there's a new wing record. I was like, what? You just told me it was 60 or whatever it was. And he's like, no, I think it was like 88 or 89. So I was very new to the food challenges again. I was quite intimidated by this. But I was like, we came all the way here, forget it, let's do it. Anyway, by the end of it, let's just say near the end, I was getting raw wings. Like the wings were basically raw on the inside. And I tried to tell them this, but this guy started live streaming me on their Facebook page. So let's say I was at like 80 wings, I had like 8 more to go, and this guy is here live streaming me, and I'm literally just like I didn't want to be like, hey man, these wings are raw. Like all I wanted was just cooked wings. And so I ended up eating some of these raw wings until they finally turned off the stream or whatever it was. To which then I was able to be like, hey, like get me new wings, and they did. So it was a cool, like the staff was cool. Again, I don't personally think anything was intentional. I mean, they were trying to play music for me. They're trying to amp me up. Just in this situation, a lot of things aligned. It wasn't optimal. In all reality, I should have just said, regardless of the Facebook Live, I should have said, hey man, like these are raw. Can you just please cook them a little bit more? Yeah, that was difficult. That was very difficult. Next is a challenge, which I was told and promised was 8 pounds, and we showed up and it was at least 12 to 14. And at the time, although it had been completed about 6 to 8 years prior, when the challenge was about 5 or 6 pounds, I considered it undefeated because nobody had beaten the 12-pound monster or 12 to 14-pound monster that had emerged in the recent years. So called up the place, and essentially they were, again, like very nice staff. But you're talking to the gentleman, he tells you it's 8 pounds, you show up and it is like minimum 12. And it's been like consistent. I've had friends that have done it after me, and theirs was like 12 to 14. The guy, like, I guess the owner of them, again, told him it was 8. Then he said, maybe it's like 10. Then it's like 12. And then I think eventually he might have said it was 14. Yeah, so the food wasn't bad. The staff were, again, very supportive. I very much appreciate that. I just feel that somewhere in translation it was lost that the 8 pounds was actually 12 to 14. Might have been a mishap. But again, I don't think it was intentional, or at least they were very kind nonetheless. And also what made it more difficult is my friend who was coming with me. Again, we were expecting an 8-pound food challenge. So it was going to be like me probably eating like 5 or 6 of the pounds, my friend eating 2 or 3. He was only able to eat about 2 or 3 pounds of food, maybe more like 2. So that put at least the 10 plus pounds onto my shoulders, and it was hard. It was very difficult. Next is a challenge, which, I'm just going to tell you the facts for this one. So there's this establishment offered 2 food challenges, and I went in there, I did the first one, the first time to beat it ever. The gentleman was very surprised, very shocked. Please note that just 2 or 3 days prior, I called and confirmed, hey, you still have these food challenges and these are the details. So they had a burger challenge, which I did first, then they have a pancake challenge. The pancake challenge, I was told, was 10 pancakes, 1 goblet of syrup, and you had an hour or 45 minutes or whatever it was to complete it. So I go in, I do the burger challenge. I said, hey, I also hear you have a pancake challenge. He said, yes, we do. I said, and so it's like 10 pancakes, 1 goblet of syrup, right? As I've been told, 2 days before. And he said, oh no, it's changed. I said, oh? He said, yeah, it's, I think it was 15 pancakes now and 2 goblets of syrup. I was like, oh, that's weird. When did that change? He's like, oh, it's been there for a while. So here I go to do this pancake challenge the next day. These pancakes are massive. He says it's a 4-ounce pancake or 4-ounce, pancake or ladle, which if you're not familiar, 4 ounces is like half a cup. Like, it's not big. And these pancakes were at least like, I don't know, probably 10 ounces each. Like, at least, like, there's no way they weren't at least double of what they were supposed to be. Double to triple. Just the biggest pancakes, biggest pancakes I've ever, basically had in my life, to be honest. And then I had 2 goblets of syrup to try to consume. This was so difficult. I wasn't prepared. I literally ate a little bit earlier in the day. I'm like, oh, it's only the 10 pancake challenge, which my friend Chad had previously done, or at least attempted, and it was like 3 pounds when he did it. And when I did it, it was like 10. So wasn't prepared, ate earlier in the day, planned something easy, walk in the park, show up to this absolute monster. I was, again, near the end of it, basically trying not to gag, not to throw up, flavor fatigue, and just an absurd amount of pancakes and food, which if you've ever tried to eat that much syrup, like sugar and pancakes, oh man, you feel so hot, it's just, I would not recommend. Yeah, I don't know how that happened, maybe some mistranslation. But at that, essentially, that covers, at least to my recollection, what has been my hardest food challenges, which have not been brought on by myself. Again, there's times where I have done 2 challenges a day and the second one is very difficult, but I'm already full. That's kind of my own doing. So these are challenges which, again, were difficult for a variety of different reasons. Again, especially the ones at the beginning, by no means do I feel, I was misled or anything. Very much when it came to the 5-pound burger challenge at Mount Dublin, the breakfast challenge at Moe's, the ice cream challenge at Hollywood Cone, and the 10-pound challenge at the King of Donair. By 100%, all of those, I went in there willingly, and they were just very big, difficult challenges, at least for myself at the time. And yeah, no complaints. Love all those people, to be honest. All those establishments are great. Especially the Hollywood Cone. Love the friends at Hollywood Cone and at King of Donair. Great people. So yeah, that was kind of the my hardest food challenges I've done. It's often a common question. And yeah, so those were essentially the times I've had the hardest food challenges and challenges which I might have been cheated in. I've been told I've been cheated in them by other people. I'm going to remain objective and let you ultimately decide. So everybody, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this different video. Until next time, of course, stay happy, healthy, hungry. Happy eating. In this case, you can sit and talk. You can do what I do today. Usually you can't, but today, yeah, sure. So yeah, hope you enjoyed and hope you're all doing well.